Hey guys, it's Liana from PrimaGames.com. I wanted to do this little video because one of the biggest questions I get asked, if you follow me on Twitter, you can obviously see I'm a huge Mass Effect and Dragon Age fan. I stand so freaking hard for both franchises. BioWare has literally changed my life. I'm a 32-year-old gamer. For those who are new, I am the current editor-in-chief of PrimaGames.com. I have worked at news sites big and small for about 15 years now. And I I really want to connect a little bit more to gamers and the community beyond just the journalistic hat. And two of the biggest franchises that I obviously love, and you can see that on social media very apparently, is Mass Effect and Dragon Age. I have all of the books, all of the comics, all of the replicas. I even have a big ass, like 25-pound Geth pulse rifle, a giant Commander Shepard statue. I mean, when I say I'm obsessed, I'm obsessed. I have 30 playthroughs of the Mass Effect trilogy. I have 19 playthroughs of Dragon Age as a whole. And then I have 4 playthroughs of Andromeda. And that doesn't color me when talking about, the things that are happening. Obviously, BioWare has seen its very fair share of controversies over the years, especially since Andromeda's launch. And a lot of that stems from its publisher, EA. But a big question I get from a lot of people, especially if they're newcomers, is why do I have so many playthroughs? Beyond the obvious answer of it's a really amazing franchise, some of the best world building, incredible characters. It's a game franchise. Both franchises are game franchises that when you meet these characters and you get to know them, you can romance them, become their friends, become their rivals, but they feel like family. Like it's so far beyond a normal game experience that it is just credible. And there's a lot of reasons to love it. But with right now, the media is using the video games as a scapegoat once again for violence and video games are the root of all evil, despite us burning bitches and witches and killing people since for the beginning of time. Angry, loud noises. So I wanted to kind of give a little story myself of why especially specifically the Mass Effect trilogy, why it means so much to me and why I stand so fucking hard. So for those that don't know, I was active duty. This was during, I joined later, which I think kind of hurt my transition a little bit because when you join not right out of high school, you have a harder time blindly following orders. So I had a weird transition, but I also have, from a very young age, from about 4 or 5, I have always suffered from depression, anxiety, suicidal tendencies, and the pressures that happened in the military. I'm not going to go into specifics, but there were a lot of things that happened to me in the military that very much strengthened that. And one of those instances specifically deals with Mass Effect and how it helped me. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. So I was on the Harry S. Truman, which is a Nimitz-sized carrier, which is a huge, huge, huge ship. We have 6,500 sailors. Marines are mixed in there. A SEAL team was mixed in there. But if you're an introvert, it's absolutely the worst place because I lived in a berthing that was right under the flight deck. So it always sounded like we were being attacked because we were launching aircrafts. And I shared that same berthing with 275 other females. And they're in coffin racks. They're stacked 4 high. And it literally is called a coffin rack because it's so small. It really is like being in a coffin. And the bathrooms were very small, no curtains. There were 6, I think there were 6 stalls between 275 females, so basically no privacy. You can't even wipe your ass in peace. So for me, that I had a lot of a different time trying to acclimate to that. It took me a while. There was a very dark period, and unfortunately, one of the specific instance where I want to talk about how Mass Effect helped me and quite literally saved my life is to do with that deployment. So I was an engineer, I was an electrician's mate, but they ended up moving me up to Airedale to work on the catapult system, launching aircrafts for Operation Enduring Freedom, which was overseas in the Middle East. And we had, during this week, they kept moving me from day shift to night shift. So I literally went 32 hours without sleeping with constant work. And at this point, I've already have really bad depression. I'm already kind of teetering on that edge. The previous month, our deployment actually got extended. So that hope of the countdown of going home just was crushed. Because of that, we did have a couple of suicides on the boat. So if for somebody that already had that tendency, it was just this glaring reminder. And for me, the scary moment happened was not out of a moment of emotional disparagement. I was up on the flight deck, and it was one of those rare moments where I didn't even know it was possible, but it was 2:30 in the morning, night ops. All of the lights were off except for the red lights, which are the evening lights. And there was not a soul on the flight deck. And along the edge of the flight deck, there's netting. So if you fall off, you're not going to immediately go into the sea. You can get caught and be saved. And I remember I was sitting there, and it was beautiful. It was sea edge to sea edge of just stars, and it really just felt so amazingly beautiful. It felt like I was in a snow globe because it was literally just the edges of just stars, and hearing the waves crash upon the hull, it was so peaceful, and it should have been a very happy memory. And I just remember thinking, this is it. I can't do this anymore. And what scared me of how close I was to the edge was it wasn't coming from an emotional place of, I can't do this anymore, with tears down my face. It seemed rational to me of, I can't believe I didn't do this before. What stopped me? This makes perfect sense. This is the perfect solution. And that solution at the time was to jump off. It's very high. So if you fall, the likelihood of you surviving is very low because it's like hitting a concrete wall. But in the off chance that I survived the jump, I specifically positioned myself right above the propeller. So I was like, if for some reason I survive that, at least the propeller will get me. And I stood up, my muscles tensed up, and I was ready to jump. And I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. I was peaceful. Which looking back, that's what was scary, because when you've reached that point, it's really hard to come back from that. And so, media, Fox News, I hope you're listening, because what saved me in that moment was not your thoughts and prayers. It was the nerdiest thing in the world. It was Mass Effect. 30 playthroughs. I loved playing male Shepard, but I really saw myself in Femme Shep of Jane Shepard, played by Jennifer Hale. And a big part of the game is, you're in the Navy, you're in the Marines. I've worked with tons of Vegas in my time. And in my head, I had just this random thought, and I don't know if it was because I was looking at the night sky and looking at space, essentially, but I had this moment of, what would Commander Shepard do? And it was like an ice cold bucket just got rained on my head. I was like, she wouldn't give up. This bitch went head to head with a Reaper on foot, ran for a beam, united the fucking galaxy, took out Udina's dumbass. She did so many things despite her not even being a real person. This character did so many things that in that moment, that apparently was the connection I needed to kind of pull me out. And for that, I will always be very grateful to the Mass Effect trilogy. And actually, the second I got home from deployment and we made it back stateside, the very first thing I did was buy a giant Commander Shepard statue. It was 20 inches. And that actually jump-started my collection for that specifically. I had to get everything because I felt like I needed to commemorate that moment. And if I surrounded myself, even when I'm not playing the game, if I surrounded myself by the Mass Effect universe, that I could pull myself out again. And I've noticed when I start going into those really severely depressive episodes, that's what I do. That's why I have 30 playthroughs, is when I start catching myself falling back into those habits, I whip up close all the doors. I ask my husband for some privacy, and I'm like, I just need to disappear in the world a little bit. And it has been my saving grace. And it's funny because I've noticed that Dragon Age is also that safe place for me. That's why I have 19, but more for my anxiety. I have diagnosed OCD. I have very bad anxiety. It all kind of whirls around to be one hot mess for myself and within my brain. And I know Dragon Age is kind of my safe haven for anxiety. And I don't know if it's the mysticism and the magic and everything like that, but it's like a balm. It saves me in that instance. And that's why it's just, we have all these instances where people are blaming, video games for violence, and it's so powerful. The gaming experience is so powerful. I have met so many people that I'm proud to call friends now through Mass Effect, through Dragon Age, with similar stories, obviously not deployments, but talking about ways that these characters gave them strength during the times that they needed it the most. And that to me is the power of gaming. And I think it's absolutely phenomenal that we have that. And as technology progresses and graphics become more and more realistic, it's easier to be able to immerse ourselves in these worlds. I will never face down a Reaper unless BioWare knows something that we don't know. I will never face down a Reaper and romance a freaking Garrus motherfucking Vicarian. But in those moments, I can be the badass hero. I can be the magic dwelling Inquisitor. I can be the Coltrane baby. Woo! I can be whatever I want to be when I'm playing that game. I can be Nathan Drake. I can be Lara Croft. I can be whatever I want. And that's the power of gaming that I wish mainstream media would recognize, because there is so much power in this community. We are so powerful together. It's amazing. But I putting my journalistic hat aside for a moment, I just really from the bottom of my heart want to thank BioWare for all of the incredible adventures you've given me personally and so many like me through the years, Andromeda included. I absolutely loved how relatable and dorky Ryder was. And Mass Effect Andromeda was not meant to feel finished because it wasn't finished. It was the first part of a trilogy. If you're going to compare it to anything, compare it to Mass Effect 1, not the trilogy. It wasn't meant to be a standalone game, but unfortunately there was a lot of misunderstandings. They had a lot going against it. I'm not justifying the issues they had at launch, but they had their budget cut dramatically. They had a lot of evergreen developers that are not used to working with that particular engine, which is very well known for being a troubling engine, especially if you're doing beyond just environmentals. On top of that, you had news sites falsely reporting cancellations that actually ended up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. There was a lot of things going against it, some justified, some not, but it wasn't supposed to be an ending. That's why we heard the Quarians. That's why it was open-ended with Reyes. That's why all of this was meant to be the power behind the Ket, which was really amazing. Just like we learned how the Geth weren't the true evil, and we ended up becoming even friends with the Geth in the Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. So, it really just, I want from the bottom of my heart, just thank BioWare. Thank you so much. And, if you guys are fans like I am, even just a little bit, please reach out. I can never talk enough about these franchises. They are my life. And if you like this kind of stuff or just like peeping at collectibles, you can also follow me on Twitter at DirtyFNHippie, DirtyEffNHippy. But I will never turn down the opportunity to nerd the fuck out. But thank you. As editor-in-chief of Prima Games, I focus a lot on news and business developments and things like that. So it's kind of nice just to sit down and just talk and nerd out and be just really excited. So yeah, I want us to kind of join together as a community. Media wants us to know that, or wants us to believe that video games are the cause of everything negative, and I definitely think differently. So I want you in the comment section below to hit me up with your best gaming memories. What's your franchise that's your saving grace when life gets really hard? Or what's the fundamental moment in gaming that just absolutely will stick with you to the day you die? I want to know. And if you're watching this on another platform that doesn't have comments, hit me up on Twitter. I want to hear your thoughts. I think it's very important now more than ever that the gaming community sticks together. So thank you guys for allowing me this opportunity. And if you stuck with me this long, God bless you. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.